Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, we've known that a lot of the mainstream media sources out there have been rife with probably some of the most irreprehensible people out there that we've ever seen. And it's one of those situations where, and maybe they're not, maybe it's just on the average, maybe it's about the same as the average population. I don't know. Maybe it's just because they are people that are in media and entertainment out there, but it takes a much bigger splash and ends up hitting the cultural zeitgeist so much harder. Maybe that is the case. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, it's really funny how more often than not, a lot of time when you find a lot of these legacy media institutions, it's not very often that you throw a stone and it seems like it ends up hitting somebody that's well involved in some nasty things that we really can't talk about on the internet very well because of censorship and nonsense like that. Join us over on Rumble. But it's one of them situations where this kind of thing goes on, and the problem is a lot of people try to distance themselves from these types of people, and rightly so, right? But the problem with that is, at the end of the day, some people try to go out there and erase history, and that is not something I'm for or have any good ideas. I don't think that's a good idea ever. I'm a free speech absolutist. I always have been. I want to hear people say stupid things so I can avoid stupid people. It's just that simple. I want to know what my history is. I want to know what the kind of things you've been responsible for so I can fairly assess who you are, not only as a person, but as a company as well, and the kind of people that you've employed over the years. But of course, this is something that we see time and time again in the modern era, the erasure of history, the rewriting of things. We've seen the editing of movies, the editing of television shows that they've tried to do, and now the BBC itself is doing the exact same thing to Doctor Who because of somebody that they hired, somebody that they employed, that is now found out to be an absolute dirtbag, has been trying to be erased from polite society. And this is something that I disagree with 100%, because if we do not know our history, if we do not understand it, we will be destined to repeat those exact same mistakes. And at the end of the day, boys and girls, history is what history is, and it should be limited to those, because at the end of the day, if they try to erase this person from any kind of connection to the BBC or kind of from any kind of media, let's say they erase this guy from every single thing he has ever appeared in ever, then what lesson does that teach people going forward out there? Because this is the end of the day. This person, for all of the monstrous things that they've done, and hopefully something goes real quick for them, but at the end of the day, they need to be used as an example, as a lesson. People need to point out to that person and go, oh yeah, that was the guy that did X. Yeah, that's disgusting. That's horrible. And every time you see an episode with him in it, every time you see something in it, you should be reminded of that. Because we need to be reminded as a culture of the sins and of the evil that is out there and can exist. And I will never stand for the erasure of that kind of thing, because that's how a culture fails and falls and becomes destroyed and taken over by people with nothing more than an evil intent to destroy and recreate it in their own image. Well, guess what, boys and girls? Pride before the fall always comes. The oldest story in the book is someone trying to be like God. And how did that work out for them? Very well, boys and girls. You try to rewrite the world in your own image, and it fails every time. And the BBC is going to get called out for this nonsense because it's something that they should not be allowed to do. And everyone needs to remember that this person absolutely worked for the BBC, boys and girls. So we're going to get to this article from Deadline.com, give you all the juicy details of exactly what is going on, to show you what episodes they're trying to remove, show you the evidence that this is something that is happening, and the BBC is trying to rewrite history, and this is something we should not stand for. It should not absolutely be called out, and especially as Doctor Who fans, boys and girls, one more example of why physical media is and always will be king. So before we do, if you enjoy this, if you enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, because we have just crossed 1,000 on YouTube, and we are sailing our way back up to the levels we've been at before, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment section down below and let us know if you actually have some of these episodes out there on physical media, or if you plan on getting them before the new editions come out and the BBC tries to erase this guy from their own history forever, boys and girls. So, Doctor Who episode featuring disgraced presenter Huw Edwards removed from BBC iPlayer. And by all means, don't anyone out there ever think this is any kind of defense of Huw Edwards. Huw Edwards and what he's done and what he's caught with is an absolute scumbag, and he deserves to go inside of a very special machine that'll probably get us in trouble out there for talking about it. But yes, I agree with you on all of that one. Trust me. Is the BBC starting to scrub Huw Edwards from its vast library of content? Well, would it surprise anyone at all that that's the case? The UK broadcaster has removed from iPlayer an episode of Doctor Who featuring the disgraced news anchor, who this week pleaded guilty to indecent images. Let's just put it that way, charges. Like literally, he pleaded guilty to it. Like, there's no trial. There isn't a question of his innocence. The guy said, yeah, I did it. And I'm going to jail for it. So, yeah. No longer available to stream is Fear Her, which, honestly, boys and girls, as a guy who does a Sunday night Doctor Who series review show, right, that you can find exclusively over there on Rumble. You can find a little bit of the preview on YouTube, but we have to watch the episodes on Rumble because we actually watch the episodes all the way through. And you know how YouTube's bots are. They'll copyright you even if you're actually reviewing something and using things on fair use. Either way, that's beside the point. As somebody who recently reviewed the episode of Fear Her, trust me, there's a million other reasons to remove that episode from iPlayer. Okay, there's a million other reasons to erase that episode from the Doctor Who cultural zeitgeist. All right, that is just a abysmally bad episode. It makes no sense. The whole concept behind it is ridiculous and over the top and silly, and it's bad. It's probably one of the worst episodes of Doctor Who. Like, it was so bad that when we went back and did the review on Sundays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, I literally was like, I don't even remember this episode. It was that bad. And then I was like, oh, God, I do remember this episode. Oh, God, it's horrible. It's an episode I never went back and watched again. And I have watched tons, probably hundreds of episodes of Doctor Who over and over and over again. And that is one that I will always skip, boys and girls. Holy cow, it's bad. So, yeah, trust me, if anything, if you want to erase Fear Her, by all means, please do. But not because of this guy. Not because of this guy. So no longer available is to stream Fear Her, an installment from season 2 of the sci-fi drama starring David Tennant and Billie Piper. The episode in which Edwards' voice can be heard during a news clip was available on iPlayer as recently last month per Internet Archive records. Because yes, boys and girls, the internet is forever and we will make sure of that. But literally, you can hear his voice in a news clip. You can't see his face. Probably nobody outside of the United Kingdom who actually watches BBC on a regular basis, their news, would have any idea who this guy is. And you literally removed the episode from your iPlayer. What? Edwards features when Chloe Webber, a girl who was terrorized by a demonic version of her abusive dead father, makes everyone disappear in a sports stadium. Yeah, it's that dumb. It's that dumb. It's that dumb. My God, what's going on here? The crowd has just vanished right in front of my eyes, he says. It's impossible. Bob, can we go to you in the box? Bob, not you too. That's literally it. Would any of you known who this guy was? But it's an example of them trying to rewrite their own history. BBC is literally trying to rewrite the cultural zeitgeist to make it look like they're clean, like they've never been touched by any of this kind of stuff. This is why you don't erase history. This is why you don't erase history. The BBC did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Color us shocked there. And yes, boys and girls, we do record these videos live at 11 a.m. Monday through Friday, Central Standard Time on YouTube and Rumble. By all means, come join us. And you too may get your membership put in a video forever as well, boys and girls. The BBC did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Oh, color us shocked there. Because mum is absolutely the word when it comes to this kind of stuff. When they're trying to erase the cultural zeitgeist, they don't want to admit to what they're doing. They're just hoping you all are too dumb to notice. But boys and girls, we know so much better than that, don't we? It's perhaps unsurprising the executives are looking at Edwards' episode given the nature of his crimes and that Doctor Who has a young fan base. The Daily Mirror reported that the footage of Edwards would be edited out. The Fear Her episode is still available to stream on HBO Max in the US because, yes, they would actually have to require that, and that would actually probably violate some content returns and all kinds of other stuff out there. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's just that insane. It's that insane. And like I said, I don't support this. I will never support this. I don't support this in any way, shape, or form because this is wrong on every level. You do not erase your history. You do not erase Doctor Who history. You do not erase any history. Why? Because history is there to teach us lessons. We're supposed to look back upon it and learn things. And boys and girls, this is a lesson that can be learned for anyone out there. This guy is a monster. He is a despicable human being and should always be remembered at that. But of course, BBC's like, oh, well, but we're pure, we're good, we don't know, we're not involved with any of that kind of stuff. We have to remove him from our history. No, that is wrong. And to use any kind of argument that you're trying to protect children or some kind of BS like that, give me a break. These kids aren't going to know about this, and they sure as hell shouldn't know about it until they're old enough to be able to process things like this. So don't give me that excuse that you're protecting kids. It's nonsense. It's BS. You're trying to erase history, and you're trying to erase any kind of connection you had to this guy. But guess what? You're not going to, BBC, and no one else is out there ever, because the internet is forever. Documentation across far and wide is out there. And no matter how much you try to scrub your own dress clean, that stain is never going to come out, BBC. So enjoy it. Take part of it, and instead, turn this around and teach this guy as a history lesson. Because you're not clean, BBC. None of us are. You never have been, and you never will be. So erasing Doctor Who history and erasing your own will not do you any good. BBC, we know what kind of scumbags you are. We know what kind of people employ. We know what kind of people Hollywood employ. Maybe instead of trying to erase your own history, maybe you should go out there and maybe be a little more particular about the psychopaths you hire. After all, BBC, you did it to yourself.